Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking a bit about your life right now, SLeet, because again, we discussed this a little bit. You're currently in school right now. You're also going to be starting a job soon. Sounds like your life is getting pretty busy just outside of StarCraft. So tell me, how exactly do you balance your life with StarCraft?
Well, it's pretty difficult, actually. One of the easiest ways to do, I actually have it here, is I just have this notebook of just stuff I have to do every day, and I just don't really have a whole lot of downtime. So, I'll go through the things I need to do today, and I'll just get that all done as quickly as possible. And then generally I'll take like a short food break and practice for a few hours. I'll take a short food break and then maybe do some homework and then practice for a few hours. Mm-hmm. So just very careful time management, I guess, is how I deal with that.
But how exactly do you manage to get through your practice? You just try and focus on saying, oh, well, I can only practice so much time per day. Do you do any specific training regimens? Do you try to play more custom games? Like, how do you practice?
Most of my practice is ladder. I do play occasionally with my teammates, and I'm going to be playing a lot more with them in the weeks leading up to the Invitational for specific matchups. Mostly ZVT, I think. Normally, I just ladder, and generally, what my plan will be is I'll have like a 3 or so week cycle, where at the beginning of the cycle, I'm only concerned with mouse accuracy. That's all I'm doing, and then the next day I'll have mouse accuracy, and then I'll be using my keyboard and not focusing on speed at all, like deliberately playing slowly so that I am perfectly accurate. And I'm laddering this whole time, right? So my rank is fucking awful, but it's fine. And then like the next day, I'm going to try to speed things up a little bit. Day 4, I'll really be focusing on the mini map and not getting supply block, and slowly add on to get more and more complex. And so like most of my training is actually mechanic. And then after about a week and a half, I'll start thinking specifically about maybe different, when I'm really sure my mechanics are super solid, I feel great, I'm playing like blazingly fast. And then I'll say, okay, if I'm playing mechanically perfect, what am I messing up on? And so then I'll go over scouting time, and I'll go over different responses, maybe clever burrow tactics is something I've been looking into a bit more lately, and that kind of thing. And then if I take a break of more than a couple of days, I'll start the cycle over.
It seems very well thought out, very structured, very regimented. Is this something that you've picked up or like just decided to do and start yourself, or is this something you've learned from someone else?
It's sort of a combination of both. Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone who does practice quite the same way that I do, which, considering there are people a lot better than me, maybe I should work on that. I don't know. But a big influence was, as I said, I've watched a ton of the Day 9 Daily, and one thing that really stood out to me was his early mechanics shows, talking about how just mechanically keeping up with your mental checklist was a really important thing to do. So I really worked on that really hard. And actually, for the first probably 2.5 years of playing StarCraft, the only thing I worked on for years was just larva injecting, because I just thought I could always be better at that. So that was the #1 priority. But the specific breakdown is something that I made up.
Well, you did also mention that you're going to be practicing a lot of your Zerg versus Terran, so let's talk about that. How are you feeling about ZVT right now?
I'm feeling pretty good about ZVT. I'm running into a couple little difficult parts, mostly based on scout timings. So I'm really looking into that more. But I feel great once my Spire's up and my meters are out. I win an insane number of games.
And if you had to describe yourself as having one strength and one weakness in your Zerg versus Terran, what would those two things be?
I mean, my strength is probably just early game larva injects and management. I end up with just a ton of stuff, and most players just can't break me at any point. So weakness is probably getting that scout about the 630 mark to make sure that I don't die to hell battle ends. It's probably my biggest weakness.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be finding out a bit more about his Zerg versus Terran through an actual example game that you've sent in, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Zerg versus Terran.
Welcome to the Zerg versus Terran, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined here once again by Cybert, and we're going to be jumping in and introducing the players as we spawn up here in the top left-hand corner. Representing Team Morky, it is the ever so tragic. Look at that Doge.
How adorable. That introduction was so fitting. But in the southern corner of Deadwing, we have the man of the day from PSISTORM Gaming. He is SLeet.
Hey Cybert, do you know why they call it Deadwing?
Is this going to be a really terrible pun?
Well, I can tell you, but it's quite the tragic story.
Oh, this is exciting. Oh,
Frostwind.
Sup, Frostwind. I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. Maybe he's talking about Frostmourne from like Warcraft 3. Did you play Warcraft?
Not 3. But, or maybe he means like sleet, as in like frozen rain.
Oh, okay. Well,
Good, SLeet doesn't know what he's talking about either. That's excellent.
Maybe that ID would be a little bit better. And from thenceforth, we actually see the ZVP is played on an account named Frostwind. That'd be pretty, actually, that'd be pretty awesome. I would like that. That would be a gradual progression of a story.
I don't even know what to respond to that with. Other than it's, hey, hatchery first. We got that 15 hatch, but it's also CC first. So both of these guys are just like, hey, Deadwing, 4-player map, we got 20 bases. We might as well start using them up as quickly as possible with some economic play.
Indeed. You know, it's not too crazy for Zerg players to go hatch first generally in this matchup anymore. I mean, it used to be back when you'd be constantly scared about proxy 2 Rexes all the time and that stuff, but recently, I mean, unless you're going up against Maru in, say, SSL finals, you're not too concerned about it.
Which I haven't actually watched those, but that's not actually a spoiler. If you know Maru's playing, then it's like, oh, there's a 2-Rax? I'm not surprised.
It'd be a spoiler if I said Maru didn't 2-Rax at any point.
That, yeah. That would be an even bigger surprise. Like, are you sure? That wasn't... Every Korean Terran 2-Rax is at least once in a best of 7. Isn't that a rule?
Oh my god. Especially Maru. Maru 2-Rax is, I think, like 6 times in a best of 7. Even when he only wins 4-0.
Even if it's only... Yeah.
Even if he wins 4-0, he actually, like, lifts off and lands the 2-Raxes twice just to make it count as, like, okay, this is a new 2-Rax now, because I lifted it and re-landed it.
I can understand that. That makes a lot of sense.
Alright, but ZVT happening over here, guys. We did have an early gas geyser from SLeet, so he is going to be going up for that Zergan speed. What is he going to be up against, though, after that CC first?
It was Rax at like 17, gas around the same time. He's not going for Reapers, though. It's just lots of Marines. And of course, when you go for that CC first, a bunker blindly at the front is not the worst idea.
Yeah, I am not hating on any Terran player that goes for this kind of stuff, because you never know. You take a look at what Tragic's vision is, and it is quite the tragic vision.
Oh, my word.
I swear I'm done using that as a pun. But, you know, he really just doesn't have any idea what SLeet is up to. He sees the 2 Zorgans, that's quite literally all of the units of SLeet that he's actually seen. Very soon he'll see the Overlords and he'll know the spawn positions, but I guess his SCV is going to know that regardless.
Yeah, he can be reasonably sure that he's either playing up against like a really slow aggro build, in which case his opponent is probably really bad, or it's, you know, something a little bit more macro-oriented. Sometimes you just get like an aggressive, quote-unquote, build, but it turns out the person executing it is just really bad. Fortunately, these guys don't have to worry about that so much. That's more at my lowly league level.
Indeed. Well, Tragic actually just scouts over and sees the drone going for the 3rd, and I guess that's actually all the information he really needs. He's going to end up losing this SCV as he also manages to get the scout off on the Zergling speed. But he's going for a 3cc style himself, and behind this, he's getting up the Hellions, getting up a Tech Lab actually on the barracks, so kind of curious what he's going to be doing that. If he's just going to be going straight up for Stim, yeah, delaying for that starport for a little bit.
Which, you know, considering it is going to be into that 3rd CC after scouting that 3rd hatchery from his Zerg opponent, he's just, I feel like it's that thing where you try to figure out what your opponent is doing. You're like, oh, you're playing super greedy? I'm going to, I guess it's not super greedy from the Zerg, but you're playing greedy? I'm going to play greedy. So good on Tragic. I can totally support that.
Yep. If there's anything I learned from Scrooge McDuck is that when somebody's playing greedy, you can act even more greedy and get away with it usually.
Yeah,
Tragic.
Scrooge McDuck, a very famous StarCraft 2 pro.
Indeed, actually, a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people just know him from his reality TV show DuckTales, but quite a successful StarCraft 2 player as well. Didn't have the highest accuracy though. Feathers don't really make for good mouse hands.
That's very true. I'm not actually sure if these Hellions are going to be able to do anything. At first, I thought they were going to be able to do a lot, because there was just nothing there to respond, and then he just turned around and he was like, I don't want to commit these Hellions because I don't know exactly what you've got. And that may be for the best, although these Zerglings are getting awfully close to catching these Hellions out in the open.
Yeah, Hellions are going to be able to get away. SLeet doesn't want to take too much damage with those Zerglings because he doesn't want to have to remake them for that map control. But for now, yeah, he's just going to be sitting in a very comfortable droning up position. And I'm kind of curious if he wants to go in, do some damage when the Terran player decides to finally try and establish that third expansion. Because that is something that's very common for a lot of Zerg players to do, just try and deny the third from actually landing. But for now, he's just continuing to drone up and finally getting up that lair tech.
Yep, adding that on, but at the same time, he's getting himself some upgrades because we had the double Evo chamber get thrown down quite a while ago, but the Baneling Nest is also on the way, and of course saturating, or hopefully saturating, those 2 fresh gases at the third base. He did just build them. There we go. He's going to start putting drones in them, so he's going to have a pretty healthy gas income.
SLeet sees the third expansion finally landing. Unfortunately, his lair was not finished up, so he couldn't try and delay it with pooping out the creep from the Overlord. But creep spread
unfortunately,
creep spread is going to be really nice this game, I've got to say. The Hellions really weren't able to do a whole lot to deny it.
Okay, so there's the scan of the natural for Tragic. I'm not sure if he was hoping to see some sort of like muta tech there, or maybe any tech at all other than double Evo chambers, but I mean the Spire is in the main base, the Baneling Nest is at the third, and I mean he also didn't quite see the fourth went down, but I mean he may be able to infer that.
Yeah, Queen's going to be caught a bit out of position. They were busy spreading creep, but Hellbats are now out. Tragic, unfortunately. The thing is, he actually, again, he delayed that starport for such a long time that only now are those first 2 medevacs actually popping out. So they're not with the army just yet. He's got to be careful. He's going very deep onto creep right now.
Yeah, he is asking for a bit of trouble. He does have stim, though, which will certainly be helping him out as the Banelings are crashing through. We've seen better splits, but we've also seen far worse as a fair number of these Marines do survive. They aren't exactly healthy Marines, though.
Indeed. It didn't go as bad as it could have for Tragic, just because I think the Baneling speed is not finished up just quite yet. He still has another 20 seconds of trying to exploit that. He's dropping in the main base, but SLeet does have the Zergons already ready up and over there.
Yep, dropping him right back down to the fourth base, but SLeet very wisely keeps Zerglings on the high ground so that sort of play is going to be limited. Now, there wasn't a huge amount of damage really done. I mean, we're talking about 3 drones. Mostly the dead units are in those Zerglings for SLeet.
Yeah, for the most part. But the Mules are finally starting to come out, so we'll see how much damage these drops can actually do. A couple of Banelings morphing in right next to these Marines that are dropping down. We'll see if he's paying attention, if he's going to end up losing the Marines. No, doesn't. But the medevacs are going to be under attack from these Mutalists.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it looks like the boost is on cooldown now over near the... Well, I guess it would be near the third base, but the Zerglings are getting rallied all over the place. I'm not exactly sure where the Zerglings are going at the third base of SLeet, though.
Misclick. I think he clicked on the low ground. The Zergling's glitching out a little bit. Takes a bit more damage than he wants to, but the Banelings do manage to clean up. And I think that the aggression should finally be starting to calm down a bit. Tragic is trying to move in with some medevac drops to continue the aggression, but this is more just going to be a delay tactic because those medevacs are just going to immediately end up dying to the Mutalists if they're not careful.
Yeah, certainly Tragic has to be very careful in his situation. Almost loses the medevac near the front of his third base. Does manage to pull it back. We also do have a couple of Widow Mines out on the field, 3 of them on the way. Over at the fourth base of SLeet, though, he may be taking a little bit of that Widow Mine damage. We'll have to see if they actually get burrowed. No, they are a bit late on the burrow there, as maybe they'll get some nice Zergling shots.
Oh, they're going to get some beautiful Zergling shots, and I actually really like the control over there that Tragic had, where he lifts up the Marines right as the Widow Mine shots go off, but unfortunately for him, it's still going to get cleaned up. He does some okay damage, but SLeet's still sitting on a fairly healthy drone count. Now, the main thing that Tragic did was he pulled SLeet back over to his side of the map, so he has a lot more room to work with, and he can start to clean up a little bit more of this creep.
Yeah, but all of these engagements, especially if they're taking on creep, he's going to find them a little bit difficult. He's down upgrades, and ooh, the Zerglings are going for a pretty big surround. They're trying to get some good shots with the Banelings. They do clean up the majority of the Marines, and SLeet just has overwhelming forces here. He's going to be able to push this back pretty easy.
Oh my god, SLeet looking to take a 5th expansion behind this, going up 2
these
bases once again. Oh, Widow Mines! Oh,
oh, that last Widow Mine shot there impacting on the Mutalisks. SLeet pushing back the Terran player further and further. But what is his follow-up going to be?
yeah, he doesn't really have any Banelings or Zerglings left over right now, so I'm not sure if he can really push in. But the main thing that he's doing is that he's keeping Tragic back at home. Now, Tragic, again, as we've seen him do earlier on in the game, just going to try and use some medevac drops to force SLeet back, force him to deal with the drop, and then he uses that extra breathing room to, say, go out for an attack, or even trying to establish a 4th expansion. But Hive Tech is on the way. SLeet sitting even on upgrades right now at 2-2, but how is he going to deal with this medevac drop?
Fairly easily. I think like only 1 drone actually went down in that harass. And the Mutalisks might actually get this medevac if it doesn't manage to drop any of the Marines inside of it.
Yeah. Another medevac actually going to be flying straight over the 5th expansion. I don't know if Tragic was actually anticipating that 5th expansion to be taken already. But this gets cleaned up pretty easily too.
Yeah, those Zerglings just instant surrounds on every single Marine pretty much as they're dropping out. And yeah, we've already got the 5th base up here. It's mining. It's half saturated, or even a little bit over half saturated. As we've got Tragic, he's just, I mean, he's not exactly pumping out quite the unit numbers that he would like, although he's got quite the army.
Indeed he does. He's going to catch a lot of SLeet Zerglings a little bit off guard. This is not an engagement on creep. He's doing a good spread, but ends up taking some big shots over there.
And some of the shots were actually from the medevacs, as in the 3rd base, Zerglings try to do some damage. They're trying to find some openings. They're kind of getting locked down by a couple of these Widow Mines and the reinforcements. At the same time, at the 5th base of SLeet, Tragic is moving in. He's got the... Well, he doesn't quite have the numbers.
Yeah, and SLeet has retained those Mutals for such a long time. Look at that Mutals lock. It's absolutely devastating. And I don't think that Tragic has enough Marines to even deal with the Mutals, let alone the Zerglings and the Banelings.
Yeah, the numbers, I mean, 12 Marines out on the map currently, only 8 as they're just getting annihilated. These Mutas might just be able to 1A move over this entire base. They would still take a fair bit of damage, but they might actually be able to just straight up win.
Yeah, SLeet does back up, though. I mean, he lost a lot of Zerglings, Banelings there. I mean, why take a risk? Right now, he's a 5-base Zerg player against a 3-base Terran that is still not established that 4th expansion. In fact, I don't even know if I see a 4th orbital command. It's only just now going down.
The kind of nice thing that we do have for Tragic is we've got the Thors and the Widow Mines, which potentially can do some incredible splash damage, but so far they haven't been too incredible. Over at the 5th base of SLeet, another drop of Marines. Can this Widow Mine get some great shots? Not really. I mean, he does some damage, but of course with Muta regen, that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, he's got to get off 3 or 4 of those kind of Widow Mine hits on these Mutals all at once. Or as you were saying, the Mutals regen is going to be a bit too much, but oh, we have some 3-3 upgrades starting to finish up for SLeet. This may be a little bit premature, but honestly, I think he might just have enough to go in for it. He kills off the Thor. Baneling's doing some big damage, but he's out of Zerglings and out of Banelings.
Yeah, he's like almost at the point where he's got so many Mutalisks versus so few Marines that he can almost just, move his entire Mutalisk clump and just end the game. But it's not quite there. He doesn't want to be taking those risks, and rightly so. But the Mule Hammer is continuously being dropped on the third base. The main and the natural are not looking very good as far as the economy goes for Tragic.
Yeah, but here come the Ultras down. You know what? I've got to say, the Widowmine hits have been pretty awesome for Tragic this game, but Ultras don't really care about Widowmine hits. Actually, the Mutalist not even caring about the Marine Fire right now. He's losing a lot of Mutalists over here. I mean, really not taking a very cost-effective engagement, but does he just have the economy to not make it matter?
That may be actually what it comes down to. I mean, we've been at 80 drones and a 4-base economy for so long in this game, even adding on the 5th base eventually, as we saw. Now, these Widow Mines can potentially get some really incredible shots. No, the battle does get pulled over to that left side there. The Mute is... Oh, they're doing so much damage. They're almost unopposed.
Oh my god, Ultra is finally taking those shots from the Widow Mines. Goodbye, Widow Mines. You're not going to be super helpful in this engagement. There are a couple more Widow Mines left over, but... these Ultralists, they are just doing so much work in tanking these shots.
Yeah, I mean, with the huge Mutacloud, which again, it was at like 26 currently.
Oh, God.
Okay, maybe not
Ultra's
quite so
clean.
much anymore, but the Mutalisks are doing still a lot of damage. The Thor is here. The Ultras, though, can't really be dealt with very easily.
Yeah, I mean, the three Ultralists with the chitinous plating upgrades and everything, it's going to be so unbelievably difficult for Tragic to make the defense happen over here. He's rallying in some of these Marines, and then he's suddenly realizing, wait a second, this is a bad idea. Back up, back up. A little bit too late, though. The Mutalists, they're on top of the production along with the Ultralists. I think that this is pretty much game.
Yeah, in another game, those Widowmine shots that we've seen would have been absolutely game-winning, because it's like some of these Mutalisk clumps get so low on HP, but there's nothing left to finish them off. They never actually die. They just get low on HP, then they fly out of there, they regen, and they're still alive for the next battle.
Exactly, and I really like that. And you gotta also remember, SLeet invested a lot into the Mutalists. The Mutalists were super important, and he was taking on engagements versus Marines. But I want to note, he's been doing something that a lot of Zerg players tend to neglect, and that's going really hard on those Mutalist upgrades. I mean, he's got the +3 air weapons on those Mutalists. I mean, how often do you actually see a lot of Zerg players go for the +3 air weapons on the Mutalists? Not very often, but, I'm very curious. Oh my god, actually, hold on, really quickly. There's an Ultralist at the natural expansion, and the game ended right as it was popping out. It actually looks a little bit silly right now. I just want to point that out.
Wow, that actually does look very silly. It's like kind of curled over.
Yeah, it's like it's coming out of a burrow or something. But regardless, anyways, going into the analysis segment with SLeet, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Welcome back from the Zerg versus Zerg, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back here with SLeet, and we're going to be doing a bit of an analysis on the game you guys just watched. SLeet, go ahead and take it away. What was interesting about this game?
All right, so right here, this game is pretty interesting because I really like going for a Mutalisk style, and Snake, my opponent, went for Roaches. So if you're going for Roaches and you play Mutalisks, the big thing you want is 3 bases, because you want to get Hydralisks and Infestors to not die to Mass Muta. So my goal is to deny this third as long as possible. And it ends up that he gets his spores out in time, and suddenly I'm unable to do what I want to do. So I immediately am forced to go get a whole bunch more drones and go into double evolution chamber, because eventually what I'm going to want to deal with that Hydralisk Infestor force is some Ultralisks with good upgrades. Alright, so this part of the game is pretty interesting, because if you look at the forces as they stand, most people would say, quite correctly, that I'm dead. He's got a bunch of Infestors with good energy, pretty decent upgrades on his Roach Hydra, and I only have 1/1 Link Baneling. I've just lost a huge number of Mutalisks to like 5 Fungals, but because of the way that I engage, this style actually allows me to deal with this army pretty well. So I get a good flank, and I move commanding the Banelings to just get the Hydras dead. And suddenly, his Infestors have no energy, and I'm able to clean it up with basically no problem.
So when you moved in over there, were you trying to keep the Mutalists back? Make sure, or were you afraid about the Fungal Girls going down on the Mutalists? Because I saw that they ended up going down on a lot of the Zerglings and even some of the Banelings.
Yeah, the goal was for the infestors to either die or waste their energy on the zerglings before the mutalisks showed up. Because I'm holding with the mutas, and the Ling Baneling is just allowing me to kill the Hydra infestor so the mutas don't die. So at this point in the game, I have my 5th base finished, and I see that he's trying to take this 4th. And the only way that I lose from here, again, is if he gets a really good gas count. So I need to deny this 4th at all costs. So I end up running in with my Lings and realizing I can't do anything, so I just right-click on the hatchery. I'm trying to zone with these Banelings, and I end up getting this hatch. And right now, I know that with my 5 bases and my reinforcement, I've won the game.
Were you concerned at all about losing too many units over there, or you really just feel like, reinforcements and even your upgrades, which you've managed to catch up on, are going to be enough to take any kind of engagement?
No, I really wasn't worried because I knew that with my 5 hatches and my Ultralisk Cavern done, that I could just crank out a big army to kill what he has, and he basically only has 1 army left because it's so late in the game and he doesn't have a 4th.
All right, well, cool. Thank you very much, SLeet. If that's going to be it, then we're going to go ahead and jump back to the interview segment. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. We will be right back.